You're watching CW Montana. This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade. A busy night across Montana, and that includes your chance to help science. Just grab your camera and start shooting roadkill. We'll explain. Plus, a former Billings teacher appears in court for the first time after being charged with sexual assault against 2 of his students. But first, U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi announces a formal impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump, alleging the growing Ukraine scandal marks a betrayal of his oath in office. Well, today's announcement prompting the president to deny any wrongdoing and once again declare presidential harassment. A flood of House Democrats announced their support for some form of impeachment earlier this week. This morning, Montana Governor Steve Bullock said he too would join in. Now, Bullock's presidential campaign released a statement this afternoon saying in part, quote, if the president abused his office and jeopardized American national security for his own personal gain, then the House needs to impeach him. Republican Congressman Greg Gianforte last week criticized current investigations into Trump, saying there are more serious issues facing our country, saying, quote, and yet this committee is hot under the collar with impeachment fever, driving the committee to neglect those serious issues. Republican Senator Steve Daines' office said in a statement today, Steve believes the Democrats sound like a broken record with their 2+ years of impeachment threats. On Ukraine, Steve believes now isn't the time to speculate and looks forward to hearing the facts. And a spokesperson for Democratic Senator Jon Tester says, quote, withholding the report from a co-equal branch of government is unprecedented and it's dangerous. Tester believes we have to get the facts from the IG report before we can talk about next steps. In other news tonight, an update on the internal discord at the State Corrections Department. Last year, employees alleged retaliation after they had lodged sexual discrimination complaints against the director there. Now, one of those employees is suing the state. Here's Mike Dennison.
Adrienne Cotton lost her job as the Corrections Department's Government Relations Director during a department reorganization last year. Last week, she filed a wrongful discharge lawsuit in the State District Court in Helena. Cotton says in her lawsuit that the reorganization either eliminated or changed the jobs of 5 women who said they were sexually harassed by Corrections Director Reg Michael. Some of those women spoke to MTN last year, saying the director made discriminatory or demeaning comments to female colleagues. Cotton's lawsuit also says he implied to her that sexual favors could be exchanged for advancement within the department. An agency spokeswoman declined to respond, saying the department won't comment on pending litigation. A state personnel investigation last year also said the sexual harassment claims were not substantiated, and separate complaints by 2 of the women have been rejected by the State Human Rights Bureau. But a human rights complaint filed by Cotton is still alive and saw action last Friday. That complaint also had been rejected by the Bureau, but Cotton appealed that decision to the State Human Rights Commission. Last Friday, the commission overruled the rejection, sending the complaint to a state Labor Department hearings officer for a full contested case proceeding. That case will proceed along with Cotton's lawsuit filed last Wednesday in district court. Cotton and the women who spoke to MTN last year also say the reorganization has undercut efforts to enact the landmark sentencing reform legislation passed by the 2017 legislature, a charge the department strongly denies. In Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. And Cotton's lawsuit is asking for 4 years of lost wages and benefits. A former Billings Elementary School teacher accused of sexually assaulting 2 of his female students pleads not guilty. 30-year-old Brent Skelton allegedly exchanged inappropriate late-night text messages with the girls ages 11 and 12 this past summer. Further investigation revealed during the school year, Skelton also allegedly touched both girls under their underwear in class. Now, the judge lowered Skelton's bond from $150,000 to $50,000 today. If Skelton does post bond, he must wear a GPS monitor and stay away from any children or schools. Well, water and fish in Montana and Idaho now showing signs of contamination following a study of the Kootenai River. That EPA study pinpointed the elevated levels of selenium and nitrates from upstream coal mining in British Columbia, Canada. Now, samples were pulled from areas immediately below the Libby Dam up to the Canadian border. The selenium levels in fish are at levels that affect some fish reproduction, and water nitrate levels are up nearly 3 times from samples taken 15 years ago. The Montana DEQ is working with the British Columbia Ministry of Environment to come up with the plan. Well, 3 grizzly bear cubs roaming the Polson area certainly are making themselves at home in a local woman's backyard. Now, last Wednesday, we showed you this video from the Polson resident. What we didn't know is these 2-year-old grizzly cubs have called the area home for quite some time now. Now, the bears were on the reservation at Yellow Bay, but have since moved to Finley Point near Polson. They've been wandering through yards ever since, ravaging area orchards. Now, the local authorities say the bears have not been aggressive, and they hope no action will need to be taken unless they start killing livestock. Well, whenever you take a road trip across Montana, it's inevitable you will see roadkill. And now the call is out for volunteers to count that roadkill. MTN's Cody Boyer has more on how you can actually help science.
There are all sorts of animals in Montana. You know that, I know that, big, small, everything in between. But most of the time when you do get to find them, well, they're a little bit down on their luck in places like these out here on Huffine Lane. But that's where you could actually help science.
There's a lot of animals out there.
There's nothing quite like taking a bike ride out in the valleys of Montana. Wildlife is everywhere and can be beautiful to witness. But with busy roads, those animals are often at the wrong end of that deal.
The impact of human transportation is one of the largest impacts that humans have on mortality amongst wild animals.
That's where the adventure scientists like Andrew Howley come in, and they are looking for a special kind of volunteer.
Adventurous outdoors people around the world recording the roadkill that they encounter on their adventures.
You heard him right. Roadkill. And they are looking for cyclists to help take pictures of it.
They're recording the roadkill that they see and uploading it to an online database.
Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks, as well as the Department of Transportation, are partnering up with the same mission. It started globally and with shocking numbers.
Every year there's 1 million animals hit per day in the United States, and there are 29,000 humans injured on the road, and it does $8.4 billion in damages.
The plan, and they've done this before, gather over 200 teams of cyclists to cover all 11,000 miles of state and county roads across the state.
We're going to cover all of Montana 4 times a year for several years.
As macabre as it might be, it's actually quite simple. When you're on your bike, make sure you get off. You might see some rabbit that didn't quite make it. Take out your phone and you take a picture. And then from there, you just send it right to them along with its location, and that's one step forward.
Our whole goal is to get scientists and conservationists the data that they need so that they can make better decisions and have a lasting positive impact on the environment and human health.
Now, you can sign up for free through the Adventure Scientist website, which is another easy step. But the first wave of fieldwork itself begins this weekend, September 27th.
In Bozeman, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Cody. Montana County Commissioners converging on Great Falls this week to connect. The 110th Annual Montana Association of Counties Conference brings more than 100 commissioners and vendors to the Electric City. Commissioners discuss issues they face and talk resolutions. MACO President Jim Hart says the 3 main issues across Montana: taxes, rural roads, and keeping up with housing as the economy grows. Hart hopes these commissioners take everything they learned this week back home to solve their local issues. Well, a little good news with the bad out of the University of Montana today. For the 8th year in a row, the school's total enrollment is down again this year. This means less revenue, streamlining of staff, and cutting more programs. In 2018, U of M had more than 10,000 students. This year, that number has dropped 1.2%. Undergraduate students seeking a 4-year degree are down 5.2% from last year. And we told you we saved the good news for the last. The entering freshman count this year is up 3% from last year. And a big party in Havre today as educators in the community celebrate 90 years of higher education. MSUNorthern opened in 1929 as Northern Montana College. 5 faculty members and 80 students back then. Well, today they recognize the many milestones achieved along the way. Northern's chancellor says the most special part of the university is the opportunity that students gain after earning a degree. Northern plans to hold celebrations for the next 10 years leading up to the Big 100. Now, keeping with that theme, the centenarians of Montana were honored tonight in Billings. The Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services celebrated those turning 100 or older by the end of this year. The celebration is part of the 51st Annual Governor's Conference on Aging. That conference brings together Montanans that care for our state's elderly. The state knows of 140 people who have turned or will turn 100 by the end of this year. MTN's Mitch Laggy caught up with Laurel native 102-year-old Helen Reidelbach and to ask her secret to longevity.
Just hard work and do your own cooking.
Do your own cooking, huh? Why is that important?
Don't eat that stuff that's already made at the stores.
Oh, okay, so no Marie Callender for you, huh?
Yeah.
Helen tells us she still likes to crochet and has a long lineage, including 7 grandkids, 14 great-grandkids, and 10 great-great-grandchildren. Still to come on tonight's MTN 9 o'clock news, September is National Recovery Month. Tonight, we meet a Montana man who's running sober after a life of addiction. But first, Bob, how's the weather looking?
Well, here in Montana, it's been pretty nice much of the day, but we've had mostly sunny skies and fairly warm temperatures. But we do see things changing by the time the beginning of next week gets here. We could be talking about feet of snow. We'll tell you where after the break.